This episode is brought to you by Peacock. The new Peacock original documentary, Matthew Perry, A Hollywood Tragedy, dives deep into the beloved actor's rise to fame and his tragic death. 5 people, including Perry's personal assistant, 2 medical doctors, and an alleged Hollywood drug dealer known as the Ketamine Queen, were charged with conspiracy to illegally provide Perry with the ketamine. Explore the details of the case in this heartbreaking special, streaming now only on Peacock.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile with a message for everyone paying big wireless way too much. Please, for the love of everything good in this world, stop. With Mint, you can get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Of course, if you enjoy overpaying, no judgments, but that's weird. Okay, one judgment. Anyway, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
Hey, Fidelity. What's it cost to invest with the Fidelity app?
Start with as little as $1 with no account fees or trade commissions on U.S. stocks and ETFs.
That's music to my ears.
I can only talk.
Investing involves risk, including risk of loss. Zero account fees apply to retail brokerage accounts only. Sell order assessment fee not included. A limited number of ETFs are subject to a transaction-based service fee of $100. See full list at fidelity.com/commissions. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC, member NYSE SIPC.
Here at the Almond Joy Factory, where tropical vibes abound, we use soft, fresh-tasting coconut.
The crunchiest almonds and delicious chocolate candy.
Ah, but do you know what our most important ingredient is? Sometimes you feel like a nut.
Sometimes you don't.
Almond Joy's got nuts and something even way better than that. Yes, Almond Joy is made with almonds and joy.
This episode is brought to you by Coffee Mate. After watching this season of the HBO's original series, The White Lotus, this is the tropical getaway I needed. One more pina colada, please.
Hey, you're not on mute.
Oh, I thought I was in paradise. Turns out it was my Coffee Mate. Coffee Mate pina colada and Thai-iced coffee flavored creamers. Inspired by the newest season of HBO's original series, The White Lotus. For the love of coffee. Try now.
Hey there, Duke fans, and welcome to episode number 698 of the Duke Basketball Roundup. It is Sunday, March 2nd, 2025. Keyword, March. We are in March. March Madness is upon us. We entered March with a great victory, 100-65 over Florida State. We are here to recap that. I am Donald Juan. I'm your host for this episode. I got Jason Evans with me. Jason, how you doing?
Doing pretty well, man. Am I allowed? Is it sacrilege? Is it a bad form for me to say getting a little tired of beating teams by 30 points?
Yes, that is sacrilege. I am not tired of it.
Sorry, you're right. I apologize.
Enjoy this team. Jason, hey, we set some records yesterday. 9th conference win by 25 plus points, get into which is ACC record.
Outrageous.
Fourth 100-point game that we've had this season, the most since 2010. Jason, we won a national championship in that year, so
I mean,
you should enjoy these things because they
yes.
sometimes come. Also, tying the record for most ACC wins of the regular season, number 17 yesterday, tied with UVA in 2018 and 2024 UNC.
Yeah, and this just in, I don't think we're going to stop at 17.
We got 2 chances to break the record. We'll talk about the first chance that we have to break the record on the next episode when we play Wake. It's a Saturday, Monday double. Let's get into this recap. Of course, Jason, we begin with the headlines. And, of course, there's a lot that happened in this game kind of randomly in a 35-point blowout that seemed kind of ho-hum in the second half. But I want to start with Courtney Kruger, who sent this in about 40 seconds after the game was over, and it was the best one. He wrote, "Cooper refuses to be denied as we watch Isaiah have a career high in Duke's blinding defeat of Florida State." We're obviously going to be talking about eyes on this episode, Jason.
Yeah, that was really well done. Look, you don't often get alliteration this good. Duke Fox gave us Hubbard humbly hangs 100th to honor to honor Ham.
Did you say Hunter?
I did. Sorry. I'm going to start over. I'm going to try and read that again. This is not, look, this looks great on paper. This is not easy to read. Hubbard humbly hangs 100th to honor Ham. And honor, of course, is with an H. But that's just, I was like, we have an H. You just don't get H alliterations all that often. You get hard letters like C's and G's and B's and stuff like that. A's, you always get vowels. A's are easy. You don't get H alliteration. So Duke Fox with the H alliteration and the Spencer Hubbard shout out, I had to do that one.
Jason, thanks to you, I'm going to be saying Hunter all week long. So thank you for that. There was a couple, obviously, Jason, we talked about Leonard Hamilton, it being his final game in Cameron. They honored him during the game. We had a couple of headlines that I liked that were in reference to Hamilton.
Are you going to do the Eric Bishop one?
I'm doing the Eric Bishop one. I'm going to do the Alex Ward one.
I love the Eric Bishop one. Do Eric first.
Eric first. I have Eric first on my list. And Eric wrote, young, scrappy, and hungry. These Devils are not throwing away their shot, of course.
God, that's so good.
To the musical Hamilton. Alex Ward brought it a little more historical. In one-sided duel, Devils are Burr under Hamilton's saddle, which I thought was incredible as well. So thank you, Alex.
We got a few limericks, and you mentioned Alex. Alex Ward also sent us a limerick that I liked. Coach Shire was back in his home, matching wits with Hamilton's dome. The battle was short as Duke swept the court, and the Knowles were as bad as this poem. Nice job.
That one was good. Jason, in my rush to write these notes down, I actually forgot who wrote this. So Jason, maybe you can search this for me. But this one says, Lo Ciento Leonard. Devils reach 100 and Florida State foul fest. The Ciento, obviously, Lo Ciento is sorry, Leonard Hamilton. But that was a good one as well.
All right, I got a couple others. I'll get them really quick. Matthew Green, FSU outscored and outbenched old Spencer Hubbard, puts 5 in the cupboard. I thought that was really good from Matthew. A little reference to a old Mother Hubbard nursery rhyme there. And my last one, Jason Beer gave us FSU showed up like a speed bump, slightly annoying, but no real obstacle. I thought that's pretty damn good.
Brian Grant is the one who did the last one that I had, the Lo Ciento Leonard. So thank you, Brian, and thank you everybody for getting those headlines in after the game. Again, for the Wake Forest game, dbrpodcast@gmail.com. Get your headlines in for that one. We'll talk about that game later. Let's get into this game, Jason. Okay, so I want to start with this. Of course, in the first half, Cooper Flagg leaves the game. He was scrapped in the eye by Bull Bowen and had to leave the game for a little while. Obviously, that's part of the bad, but I think the one thing that I wanted to commend this team on is how quickly they were able to all just reorganize and step up in his absence. There was no drop-off. We saw Darren Harris very early in this game because of the fact that Tyrese Proctor was out. Of course, Malik Brown was out. Isaiah Evans moves into the starting lineup. We'll talk about him in a minute, but I liked how this team responded to that because it would have been very easy for them to look discombobulated without the guy who does so much on the court for this team and of course, who this team is shaped around offensively and defensively.
I'm stammering. It was 14-11 when Coop went out.
Mm-hmm.
And you would have thought that it would stay at that, like, oh, can Duke
back and forth pace? Yeah.
Instead, we suddenly got Mason Gillis and the 4 lowest rated freshmen. Like Coop and Common are the highest rated. They were both top 5 recruits. And I mean, no disrespect to Con Knipple, but in terms of ranking coming into the season, our 4 lowest rated freshmen are on the floor along with Mason Gillis. Like, what is that lineup? What's that lineup even doing? In a competitive ball game, the notion that we had Darren Harris out there, the notion we had Patrick Gongba out there, the notion that we had no Tyrese Proctor and no Cooper Flagg, and we stretched the lead. What even happened here? Mason. So it's 14-11. Coop goes out. Mason Gillis gets a couple free throws. Hits a 3-pointer. Khan gets an old-fashioned 3-point play, and suddenly you're like, I guess Duke is stretching the lead with with this bizarre, insane lineup. It was such a testament. Donald, you say it all the time. You know, don't gotta. What is it about getting ready, being ready?
Stay ready, so you ain't got to get ready and always be ready.
That's what you always say. Thank you. You say that all the time, and this was the demonstration of that. The play of Darren Harris, the play of Mason Gillis, who has not been a huge factor. The play of Con Knipple, who was asked to take on a role. Con was playing point guard. I want to be clear about that. Con was playing. There's no Tyrese. Sion wasn't in the game. Caleb Foster wasn't in the game. We had Darren Harris in there, who's not a point. Con was playing point guard. Guys were doing things completely differently than they are supposed to. And we were succeeding again and again and again. The leadership from Con and Mason, the production from those two guys. Harris was playing great. It was amazing to watch. And it gives you an appreciation for how good this Duke team is. It would be so easy, Donald, to go, it's Cooper Flagg and the Seven Dwarfs, like it's Cooper Flagg and his supporting cast. Of course you could think that. I think we probably fall into that sometimes. It's Cooper Flagg and the supporting cast. Well, Cooper wasn't playing for a stretch. And the supporting cast, they showed that they are capable of being A-list stars.
I mean, and that's to say with Cooper Flagg having 16 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals, and a block in only 19 minutes, which is the lowest output he's had all season.
I'm talking about the stretch where from 14-11 to halftime, where Duke, again, turned a game against a mid-level ACC team into an absolute blowout, a game that's non-competitive. I talked last podcast about, at what point does Bart Torvik's computer say 100% game over? It doesn't. It happened at the 9:05 mark of this game. We're ending games with 9 minutes left. What are we even talking about?
And I was at the Marquette Georgetown game last night, which was during this game. So I watched this game on delay, but I was following on my phone. So when Cooper Flagg went out, immediately ESPN with a highlight of like Cooper Flagg exits game after multiple face injuries. And I was like, what happened? Did he get in a fight or something? So I see this, I go, oh man, not the eyeball, right? Like that's something that you're either like, if you're leaving and going to the locker room, usually that means something bad. And then I look and I'm like, we're up 17 at the half. Like what, like, okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Did he come back? And they're like, yeah, he came back to the bench, but he didn't come back in the first half. And then he started the second half. We were off in there. But I really liked everybody's play. Con Knipple, 10-5-5 game, 14 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, and a block. And Jason, we'll save this for later. But as a result of these two games, and especially how everybody stepped up in this one, the player of the week pick was so hard this week because I could not figure out who I wanted. I almost did like multiple coin flips to kind of narrow it down.
Mine was easy. We'll talk about it. Mine was easy.
It wasn't easy for me because there were so many guys that stepped up. I also want to point out Isaiah Evans. Slim comes in. He didn't shoot well, but it didn't feel like, as he's starting for Tyrese Proctor because Tyrese is out, it didn't feel like he was rushing things at times. There's a couple of shots that you kind of like, okay, there's a couple heat checks here. But
he never got on a heater,
Right.
Florida State's probably like, thank God, Duke would have scored 120 if he'd gotten on a heater.
Yeah, he shot 17. He made 17 field goal attempts, and you're like, oh, he's gunning, which is what what he normally does when he's in the game.
That's his job. I'm fine with it. That is his job.
But also, you could tell, right, watching the game and looking at Cameron, everyone is captivated when he rises up to take a shot. Doesn't matter how bad that shot may miss. Everyone is captivated on it, but that helps the momentum, especially in a place, as special as Cameron. We can take those little things and ride it, but I thought Evans responded well to the fact that he was asked to do more. He started shooting a few buckets more, especially again when Cooper was out, but it didn't feel like it was outside the flow of the offense. It didn't feel like he was kind of, having to remind himself that, hey, he started this game and he can stay in as long as he needs to. I'm really impressed with how everybody responded in several different ways. I don't know if we're going to have time to talk about every single one individually, but we absolutely could.
Yeah. And on Isaiah really quickly, yes, his 3-point shooting, 4 of 13 was not ideal efficiency. And he's been a guy who's been, well over 40% on his threes most of the year. So you would have expected him to be up more around like, 6 or so of 13. But I was really impressed. He's unveiling that 2-point game a little bit more. He had one bad miss where he kind of rushed himself a little bit, I think. But
Yeah, and I'm not. Yeah, it was a rush, but it wasn't like a hey, Slim. Like, come on, man. It was one of those like I see what he's doing. Like I ain't mad. It's not a trend. Like you said, it was just the one time.
Yeah, and his other forays in for 2-point shots were very, very nice. He uses his length well. He knows that teams are just when he gets them on the perimeter, outside the 3-point line, teams are flying at him like they're terrified. He's one of the most Slim with the ball outside the 3-point line is one of the most terrifying things in college basketball. That's just reality right now. So he's like, oh well, I can do a little pump fake here and get inside. And at one point, he had that little pocket pass to Patrick Gongba. Oh my God,
Yeah.
that was a thing of beauty. It came this close to being my play of the game. It didn't make it because there's a sequence that I'm like, all done. Play of the game. All done.
Everyone, I'm doing the same page look at Jason. Yeah, we know what it is.
We know what it's going to be. But that was a great play by him. I thought he was just excellent. You mentioned, by the way, earlier that Khan had the 10-5-5. Sion almost 1 assist
Almost.
short.
Yep.
Although actually, Sion only had 7 points, so I guess he wouldn't have gotten there on points. But then Cooper almost had one as well. With
He was 1
16
assist
points.
shy.
Yeah, he was 1 assist shy as well. Yeah, I mean, there are a million different guys you can talk about in this game. I kind of want to talk about Darren Harris.
Yeah, go ahead. Actually, before you do, Jason, I want to talk about the one thing that I thought was crucial in this game. We talked about before this game that Florida State is always two of two things every single year. They are tall and they have 87 people that they throw into the game. And with that comes rebounding. You mentioned that for them being the second tallest team in college basketball, they weren't as great at rebounding as you would think. And we exploited that. We had 21 offensive rebounds. FSU only had 23. That's a 47.7% offensive rebounding rate. We out rebounded them 49-32. And I think, especially in the first half, when we were, again, doing that slow burn of a build, and then even in the second half, where I think we went on like a 15-0 run that was capped by the sequence where we'll talk about the play of the game. It was based on the fact that when we did miss shots, and again, we did miss a lot of shots, we were getting the rebounds. So we were getting second and third and fourth chances at the basket, and those were killers for Florida State.
Yeah, I had on the good, we kind of been jumping around a good bit, but
Yeah.
I had the fact that Duke was a beast on the boards as one of my very, very first things in the good. As you mentioned, we win the rebounding battle by 17. The 49 total rebounds, the second most that Duke's had in the game all year. We had 50 against Army, but the 49 total rebounds is the second most to that game. And by the way, the 21 offensive rebounds were a season high. And as long as we're into these numbers, I want to get into, because the rebounds and the offensive rebounding was a big function of just an unbelievable statistic from Duke this game. So Donald, let's talk about the fact that Duke was an offensive juggernaut, and that we scored 100 points without having even a really good shooting game. Frankly, when we get to the bad, like our 3-point shooting was not good in this game, and we scored 100 points anyway. Do you know why we scored 100 points? We scored 100 points because Duke took my favorite stat. Duke took an insane 73 shots from the field. What? 73 shots from the field in a 40-minute game? So we've been in this stratosphere before. We had 71 shots when we played Illinois and Army. 71 shots in each of those games. 73 is the most. But we've been, we sometimes get to 70 or so. But the fact that we took 73 shots in this game while also taking 34 free throws, we took a combined 107 shots at the basket. 107 shots at the basket in one game. We don't have another game that's even in the same area code as that. Where Duke is frankly playing at a faster pace lately. From November 16th through February 17th, Duke played 23 games, and there wasn't a single one of them where the pace was faster than 68 possessions. And in our past 3 games, we've now topped 70 possessions in each of those games. And the
And John
incredible
Shire
thing,
mentioned that on the press conference last week. He said, "Hey, recently teams have been like, we want to go faster, but teams haven't been allowing that." And he's like, and honestly, might be part of the game plan. But recently, teams have been we've been playing teams that on offense, they're trying to shoot the ball very quickly. So it's adding to this thing of we're getting a bunch more possessions and we're turning it into points.
yeah, and the reason for all of these things is that Duke doesn't turn the ball over. We had 0 turnovers in the first half. On the entire game. Wait, I got to find my number. Duke had
We have 4.
I mean, come on.
17 assists, 4 turnovers.
You and I say before the season, like my number, 12 turnovers. Stay under 12. Stay under 12. Duke goes like 2 weeks without committing 12 turnovers total. It's ridiculous for a team to be playing this fast, to be playing this efficiently, and not turning the ball over at all and getting this many assists. I mean, there's a reason that that Ken Pomeroy says this is the best team college basketball has seen since the 1999 Duke team. Again, I want to repeat that. The best team in college basketball since 1999. That's what this Duke team is right now. It's because they are playing offense with just an unfathomable efficiency, and they're also playing great defense at the same time. It is crazy. Over our past 5 games, I'll let you get in this. Over our past 5 games, Duke is averaging 98.6 points per game.
Mm-hmm.
What? I mean, are we playing in the NBA? Are we playing 48-minute games? And we're holding our opponents over those past 5 games to 64.8 points per game. So we have a margin of almost 34 points per game over our past 5 games.
I mean, I mentioned that Florida State only had 5 games under 70 points. They scored 65 tonight, last night, and they got another one. Okay, let's talk about Darren Harris, because I think it's important to note that Darren Harris entered this game much earlier than we've seen him. By much early, I mean early in the first half. He was kind of like I think it was right around like the 9-minute mark of the first half that he entered for the first time.
It was not a 10-point game. I truly think that his first half minutes are the first time all year that Darren Harris has appeared in a game where Duke didn't have a lead of 10 points or more. I'd have to go back and watch the Army game and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But my bet is certainly against a major conference opponent. There's no, I don't think he's played with a game where there's been less than a 20-point lead. And he came in, it was like a 3-point lead.
Right. And he came in, obviously he was the backup essentially, because with Tyrese Proctor out, Slim in the starting lineup, he's the backup guard that's left. And again, a man who through injury, unfortunately, has an opportunity to get some good minutes and make the best of them. I thought he did just that. I mean, 6 points, 4 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 steal. He played almost 17 minutes in this game. And again, he looked calm out there. He looked within the flow of possession. He was in the game when it was close, Jason. He was in the game at the very end, helping out Spencer Hubbard and crew as kind of the leader of the end of the bench unit. And I really just love the fact that these guys, when they get their opportunities so far this season, it feels like they're taking advantage of them. And it's very, very cool in that regard. And I'm very happy that Darren Harris was able to get this opportunity to get these minutes again in competitive game, right? Game time, and be able to hold his own on both offense and defense. Because that's really the key here. It's like offense is one thing, but if you're not holding your own on defense, you're getting the yank probably earlier than you would. But this time around, I mean, the reason why he played 17 minutes is because on defense, he was able to stay in front of his man and keep guys from really going off.
He had that one really nice deflection, where they're trying to kind of backdoor him a little bit, and he's like, "Nah, it's not against me. I've been at practice at Duke all year.
Yeah,
we know how to."
Cooper
play
Flegg does that in practice. So you're nothing. So
yeah. Think about it. I mean, Darren Harris, when he in practice, Florida State seems easy compared to the guys Darren Harris is playing against in practice. Believe me, I think the big thing about Darren Harris's minutes in this game is that if you're a Duke fan and you're thinking about the future, look, we know we're gonna, almost certainly we're going to lose a ton of guys off of this year's team. And you look to the recruiting. Oh, the Boozer brothers are coming in. Duke has another, number 1 ranked recruiting class. We're probably going to grab someone in the port. I wonder who we can hang on to. That becomes a huge part of figuring things out. And you start to go, okay, what kind of roles and Darren Harris is one of these guys where I think you're a little unsure of what kind of a role can he play in Duke's future. And by future, I don't mean this season. I'd love for him to get opportunities more this season, but I think it's pretty clear at this point that Darren Harris, if he has a Duke future, it's beyond this season. And so you're like, all right, well, what does he do? What does he bring to the table? And is he able to play at this level? Because to be very honest, like, it's hard not to compare Darren Harris to Jaden Schutt. They're very similarly ranked coming out of high school. Both guys who are considered great outside shooters, but you're sort of unsure if they have the athletic gifts, if they're able to play the defense and the such that is necessary to be a part of the rotation on a national title contending team at Duke. And I love you, Jaden Schutt, but Jaden Schutt kind of showed that he didn't have that. And he's now moved on. He's doing fine at Virginia Tech. Good for him. I feel like Darren Harris to me last night showed that yes, given the opportunity, he will have those skills. He will have the defensive chops, the athleticism. He will have the ability to be a part of a national title contending rotation at Duke next year. And that's a huge development for this team and for Darren, because when the offseason comes and John Shire's talking to these guys about their future and their role and all that other stuff, a lot of it's about vision. Like, can you picture yourself doing this? Can John picture you doing it? Well, now it's not just imagination, because Darren Harris did it last night, and that matters. Frankly, that's the same thing with Isaiah Evans and the Auburn game. Can you picture? Oh yeah, I saw it, and now it's reality.
Now it's reality, yeah.
And I think that I'm not saying Darren Harris is going to be, major part of the rotation going forward. The numbers just probably aren't there, in terms of this individual season. But the reality exists in the future for Darren Harris. There's no question about that in my mind.
I think the most important thing, again, just like, when Caleb Foster gets these minutes and goes off, when he gets these minutes, when Big Pat gets these minutes, is about gaining confidence in those guys so that in the tournament, if you need to turn to them for whatever reason, they're ready to go. And they know that opportunity is there, and they have learned that they can take it, they can seize that opportunity when it is presented to them and play well and keep Duke in it, because we're going to need all these guys, whether they're playing or not. We need these guys to all be competent as they enter the postseason. And last night was a great way for Darren Harris to really be involved. Jason, I know there's a lot of things we could talk about in the good, because this game was so easy to manage. I will not let us get out of here without mentioning the fact that Spencer Hubbard picked somebody's pocket and then hit a three in somebody's face to give us that 100 points. I refuse to let us go without mentioning Spencer Hubbard added 5 to the bench total, or to the walk-on total of the stats game. By the way, that I don't know who had the high number. It's
Spencer's
over.
crushing it.
It's over.
Spencer's going to set a record for walk-on points this season, I think, or something like that. It is really impressive. And while you're saying I don't want to go without mentioning a guy, somehow we have not said the name Kamen Malawach at all in this contest yet.
Had a double-double.
Yeah, he just had 14 points and 10 rebounds,
and 2 blocks. Nothing major from him.
Ain't number thing for man. He a very, very nice game against a very big Florida State team. Although it's worth noting, I spent a lot of time talking about Malik Ewan on Florida State and how interesting and compelling a big man he is. And I said, we don't know if he's going to play. He didn't play. I think that, we didn't get the full Florida State experience in this game because Malik Ewan wasn't around, but oh well. On the other hand, Malik
Brown
was around, and Tyrese Proctor weren't around. So, Florida State, you didn't get the full Duke experience either.
I mean, what's the full Duke experience yesterday? If we added those two guys, 147 points. I don't know.
My goodness.
One we'll find out hopefully soon when those guys are back. Get well soon. All right, Jason. Let's pause it here. Let's take a quick break. On the other side, we'll talk about the things to improve this game. We got a excellent play of the game, and we will debate player of the week. Stick around.
You're the perfect blend of elegance and style, and your ride should be no different. The 2024 Hyundai Sonata Hybrid meets all your needs, from business to brunch and everywhere in between. With head-turning details like a sleek front end, plus stylish interior, and an available 12.3-inch digital instrument cluster and seamless tech integration. Okay, Hyundai. Visit HyundaiUSA.com to learn more about the new 2024 Hyundai Sonata Hybrid.
Lowe's knows that free is just better. That's why MyLowe's Rewards is free to join. As a member, you earn points towards MyLowe's money on eligible purchases, get exclusive free gifts, and earn free shipping at Silver Key status, all on top of weekly member-only deals. Don't wait. Join MyLowe's Rewards for free today and start saving more. Lowe's, we help, you save. Loyalty program subject to terms and conditions. Details at lowes.com/terms. Subject to change.
It's winter, and you can now get almost anything you need for the coldest months of the year delivered with Uber Eats. What do we mean by almost? Well, you can't get a ski slope delivered, but you can get dish soap delivered. Sunshine, that's a no. But a bottle of wine, that's a yes. A snow angel, sorry, no. But angel hair pasta, Uber Eats can definitely get you that. Get almost anything delivered with Uber Eats. Order now. Alcohol and select markets. Product availability may vary by region. See app for details.
Are you still quoting 30-year-old movies? Have you said cool beans in the past 90 days? Do you think Discover isn't widely accepted? If this sounds like you, you're stuck in the past. Discover is accepted at 99% of places that take credit cards nationwide. And every time you make a purchase with your card, you automatically earn cash back. Welcome to the now. It pays to Discover. Learn more at discover.com/credit card, based on the February 2024 Nielsen report.
Clorox Sentiva smells like grapefruit. Cleans like Clorox. And feels like...
Okay, we could be here all day. Try Clorox Sentiva for a trusted clean with long-lasting freshness. Also available in lavender and coconut. Use as directed.
All right, we are back, Jason, and we turn to the things that we need to improve. And honestly, I think the biggest thing is we didn't shoot the ball well for the first time in quite a while. Shooting under 50% from the floor, and at times, despite the fact we were getting lots of rebounds, offensive rebounds, it meant that we weren't missing or we weren't making a lot of shots, which was kind of uncommon for this crew over the last couple of weeks, especially considering the fact that somehow we still scored 100 points.
Yeah, 8 of 30 from three-point range, just 26.7%. Not ideal, and a lot of that is Isaiah Evans rising up and only being 4 of 13. We talked about that earlier. I don't know that we need to dwell on it very much. The fact that we rebounded like beasts meant that it didn't matter that much that we didn't shoot that well from the perimeter. I also would note that around the 15-minute mark, Duke went in the freezer for about 4 minutes or so. And I hate Caleb Foster was in the game that time. CFOS came in at the 15:40 mark, and Duke almost immediately went really, really cold. I'm not saying that it's his fault. There were 4 other guys on the floor with him, but the reality is he was in there when things didn't go very well for Duke, and that's when I want Duke was leading 14-4, I think, and over the next several minutes, Florida State cut it to 14-11, and then Cooper Flagg got hurt. I think one of the reasons we saw Darren Harris get those early minutes, you mentioned around the 9-minute mark or so, he came in and he played much of the rest of the first half, was because Caleb Foster came in and the team just seemed ineffective. And I think that's why, a few minutes later, when Cooper went out and, rotations are getting crunched and the such, John Shire looked down the bench and he went, Darren, give it a shot. If Caleb Foster had come in at the 15-minute mark, 16-minute mark, when he did just under the 16-minute mark timeout, if he'd come in and Duke had played well and Caleb had played well, I think you may not have seen nearly as much of Darren Harris in this contest. But I did I just want to, if we're doing the bad, unfortunately, I think CFOS is in the bad in this game.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, there's not much here in the bad. I had Cooper Flagg's eye injury. He came back.
Yeah,
that's a big deal.
You want to talk?
And I think well, I think the one thing is, you know, it's hard to put that as a bad, right? It's a bad because it happened, but like it's not like it was something that could be prevented by Duke, right? He had been slapped. He had been slapped in the face on a shot. It wasn't. I don't think there was a foul call. It was a couple minutes before this incident. And
let if I can for a second on that play. So yeah, he gets slapped in the face. There's no call, but Duke is like, he got slapped in the face. You got to go to the monitor because contact to the head, contact to the face.
Yeah, I was just about to say that the Duke was ballistic because I mean it wasn't like it on in real time and on the replay. It wasn't like a slight slap. It was full hand on face.
I don't understand.
His face. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not a referee expert. There's a guy I know who is a referee, and I keep on talking about I need to have him on the podcast. God, there's no time, Donald. There's no time.
Do that after the season. We don't. Yeah. We're not a referee podcast.
He has some really,
with all due respect.
Yeah, he has some really interesting things to say about the way refs are handling Duke this year and stuff like that. But in any event, I don't know the exact rule, but I was when they went to the monitor, I was like, well, of course that's going to be a flagrant, right? I mean, he literally got slapped in the face, contact to the head. Duh. But somehow they didn't call it. I don't understand why. I don't know what was going on. Shire was a little bit upset about it. I think maybe is this a moment that Shire should have gotten even more upset? Like, should he have been, stomping up and down a little bit? I'm not sure about that. But then he gets hit in the eye, Cooper Flagg does, and he goes back to the locker room. I'm not too worried. When they showed his mom heading to the locker room, I was like, oh, jeez. Something's happening here. But then
he walks right out. Like, he walked past
Cooper walks right past her. And I'm like, oh, okay, I guess everything's okay. But I thought, for a second, that first foul that they didn't call, the first non-foul that they reviewed, and I thought maybe Cooper had gotten a concussion from that, and that perhaps he was entering concussion protocol. And I'm like, oh man, he could be out for a week or more if something like that happened. I'm like, please no, please no. But then obviously the second half, Cooper played fine. So, oh well.
Yeah, I wasn't necessarily concerned about about a concussion, right? Or watching it and then watching it again on delay. I wasn't necessarily concerned about that. It was more of how can you palm somebody's face on a windup and not get a foul call, much less go to a monitor review it. But I think, like you, very rarely in Cameron does somebody get hurt and their parents are there and their parents are going back to the locker room. Very rarely do you see that. So when you saw that returning from TV timeout, you see that both his parents walking towards the locker room, and only to see him kind of walk past him, going, "I'm good," and walk back to the bench. You're like, "Oh, whew," like that's we're dodging a major bullet here, and it seems like he's okay. Now at that point, he didn't play for the rest of the half, I think, right? But he was on the bench, and then at halftime, I think coming back from halftime, they showed him talking to John Shire and Chris Carrawell. And just kind of had this look at him that he was like, I'm good. And at that point I was calmed. But there was about a 10-minute stretch here for most Duke fans where everyone was like, oh no. And especially given the fact that if you're not like me, I was watching this game on delay, that ESPN alert coming through almost made me have to go somewhere and figure out what was going on. Because that was it was like leaves game due to multiple face injuries, and I'm like, what does that mean? Is that a fight? Did he get slapped several times on the same play? Is it does he have a concussion? Like, what do you mean leave? What? So I had to figure all that out on the fly. And it turns out it wasn't as bad as ESPN would lead it to be. So thankfully, that was the case.
Yeah, I got nothing else on it other than my heart stopped.
Yeah,
there were moments in there, man. I'm telling you, again, when they showed his mom walking toward the locker room, I was just like, oh my god.
Yeah, it was his mom, or it was both his mom and dad, because dad was like, mom looked more concerned. Obviously, moms usually are more concerned, but dad was kind of like, okay, something's going on here. And then
and by the way, they weren't going on their own. Jose Fonseca had come out
and grabbed them.
Had come out to get them, and you're like, oh my! My heart. To have this season potentially in jeopardy because of that I don't know how, as a Duke fan, you can't. I'm sure there are people across the country who were screaming "No" at the screen, and then Cooper walks out right past them. You're just like,
I'm
"What
good.
is?"
Yeah. Yeah, he walked by and they're like, I don't even think he stopped to say anything to him. He just
He
kind of walked
didn't.
past him like, I'm
He
good.
walked
Like,
past them like they were nobody.
yeah, Jose Fonseca's like, he
Oh,
was just in the locker room. Like, I came to
I
get
guess
you because he
everything's
was just
okay.
there. Guess he's
Okay.
fine. Yeah, sorry for the concern. We're glad everything's okay. We're glad we can kind of chuckle about it after the fact. Jason, let's get to the play of the game. I'm going to set it up, Jason, since I'm hosting.
Please go ahead.
About 16-19 mark of the second half. Cooper Flag gets the rebound. He runs quickly in transition. He kind of sees the lane, enters it, and then it kind of swallows up very quickly. But guess who's right next to him? Kamen Malawach. He's able to lift it in the air and find Kamen Malawach for a quick alley-oop. Malawach slams it home. He celebrates. The whole team kind of celebrates. Cooper does not, because Cooper sees Christian Nitu hauling butt back down the floor. FSU rushes the ball, gets it down to Nitu, but Flag had hustled all the way back, has a tremendous swat off the backboard.
Erasure. It was just a complete erasure.
Like Nitu probably was thinking nobody is near me because I did the cherry picked offense. Nobody's near me. He tries to lay it up. Cooper takes it all away. Cooper celebrates. Cooper is flexing. Cooper doesn't even care about the rest of the play because Conkinipple gets the rebound. He drives the length of the floor, gets into the lane, gets right up to the basket, does a pump fake to get his guy up in the air, goes through the contact, lays it in for the and one. That made it 61-35. Wait, that made it 61-35. Okay, we had the under 16 timeout, and Khan made the free throw. That free throw capped a 15-0 run ball game. That was a great sequence.
By the way, did you know? So Cooper's flexing. Khan goes down and scores, and Cooper runs down so we can flex some more.
Cooper, he flexes us more, but he's the first person to Khan. Like, he flexed. I don't know if because they didn't show him running afterwards. I don't know if he ran in that flex motion, in that flex mode. Like, you know how you kind of just walk like that. You can kind of jog like that, but he made it to Khan to celebrate first. It was. Duke is on Instagram. Duke men's basketball put it out on Instagram and Twitter. That sequence, they call this sequence of the year. I'm not complaining about that moniker because that was the best play that I've seen so far.
By the way, I mean, Man's dunk was just a ridiculous thunder. Like,
yes,
I'm surprised
he kind of celebrated too, right? He kind of jammed. He kind of looked at the cameras like, yeah. And the bench was right there, so they were kind of hammered up. And all of a sudden, they're like, oh, the ball's going back the other way. Oh, Cooper's there. It's fine. I'll just stay down here.
I'm a little surprised Khan was able to hit the layup at the end of it because the rim had to still be shaking. I mean,
well, he stopped. He stopped to make sure it was, he could, when a moving target, you kind of got to calibrate yourself. So he kind of did the pump fake to kind of calibrate himself with the moving rim, and then was able to lay it in. Great move by Khan. Again, Khan going back, hustling back on the trail, right on defense to get the rebound, and then figured out a way to get all the way down the length of the court again. I know they were tired after that sequence, but it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and by the way, worth noting that all three of the players that we've just mentioned in the sequence of the year are freshmen. Freshmen are not supposed to impact college basketball. Remember, we got all these fifth-year seniors, blah, 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 blah. Duke is different than every other team in the country, blah, 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 blah. It's just it's ridiculous how well these guys, how mature these guys have gotten, and how well they play together, playing against guys who are 3, 4, 5 years older than them.
Yeah. Jason, let's get to player of the week. We're running a little long here. Let's get to player of the week. I'm going to let you start. I know that, again, for me, there was a lot of choices here. You say yours is pretty clear. Whose is yours?
I went with Conkinipple because, first of all, he earned the Ken Palm MVP against Miami on 6 of 8 shooting, 5 rebounds, 3 steals. He gets 20 points against Miami. He follows it up in this game against Florida State with the way he led the team is with our player of the year, with the national player of the year out, to me was the really impressive part of what he did. Getting a 10, 5, and 5 practically in the first half by itself. For the week, he has 7 assists and 1 turnover. By the way, he's up to something like 25 free throws in a row now. I forget the exact number, but it's something like 25 in a row.
He leads the ACC in free throw percentage in conference, I should say.
In conference, but he's even better on the whole season. Like in conference plays at like 89 point something percent. On the whole season, he's at 90.8% from the free throw line. 90.8% from the free throw line. I watched last night. I don't think any of his free throws even touched rim. It's what he's doing is crazy. It's just crazy.
I considered Cooper Flagg. I considered Common Malawach. I considered Slim. I considered the bench as a whole. I was going to even go on a limb and say, because the bench had an incredible week when you think about it. But I think they had 45 points against Miami. They had another 30 against Florida State. So, shout out to them. In the end, Jason, I also went with Con Knippel for a lot of the reasons that you mentioned. And I also just think we forgot that a week ago, he kind of had a pedestrian week by his own standards. And so for him to kind of rebound and do it by not just shooting the three, but by continuing to add elements to his game, I thought his toughness is the one thing that improved this week. And it's not to say that he wasn't tough before, but he had some streaks where I was like, man, this dude has learned that he's going to have to fight for everything that he wants. But if he's fighting for it, ain't nobody else going to get it. And I think that he learned a lot about that this week. We learned a lot about Con Knippel's toughness in a very positive way. So continued success for him. I'm glad to see him adding elements to his game, and the fact that he's kind of gotten back to old Con that we've been used to all season is only great for the Duke Blue Devils.
No one gets on the floor the way Con Knippel does. There's a loose
especially
ball.
in his team, and there's a lot of guys who will get dirty and get dusty, right? But he's almost like the mop, right? Like when he's the one on the floor, you don't need to clean up afterwards because he's got the ball, he's got the momentum, and he's taking it all the way.
The play he had with like 40 seconds left in the first half, where Florida State like grabbed a rebound and then like he went and stole it away from some guy and gave Duke an extra possession. And like that's his game again and again and again. It's like it's not enough that he's incredibly skilled. Great vision, great shooting touch, all that other stuff. He's also got to be the guy who hustles the most. I'll say this. It's a pity for Con that Cooper Flagg is having one of the, 5 best freshman seasons in the past 50 years. Because honestly, we would be going gaga. We'd be going crazy. Con Knippel would be ACC Rookie of the Year this year and be a contender, second team, maybe first team all ACC, if it wasn't for the fact that he's playing with the best freshman that we've seen since at least Zion Williamson, if not before then. So I almost feel sorry for Con a little bit.
I feel sorry for the rest of the ACC because they have to deal with him on a nightly basis. Jason, before we get out of here, just want to do a programming note. Of course, this is our last Saturday, Monday kind of double of the regular season. Of course, we hope to see many more during the NCAA tournament, these back-to-backs. But we will be back in your feed in less than 24 hours. The Wake Forest game is on Monday night. It will be senior night. We'll talk about that on a future episode. We also have UNC week. It's the final week of the regular season. There's going to be a lot of content, of course, coming through that, including episode number 700. The dog will be on the show once again. We should try to get Sam back for that as well. I don't think we told him yet, but we should let him know about episode 700 because he's as big a part of this as all of you out there are. So again, stay tuned in your feeds. You'll be hearing from us quite a bit over the next week. So that will end it for this episode of the Duke Basketball Roundup. Thank you as always for listening. We'll catch you again soon. For Jason, I am Donald, and now it is time for the Duke Band to play us out and take us home.